Hey there, Christian Walsh, real estate agent with WIRE Associates. We've been helping the smartest buyers and sellers like yourself during these crazy days, and we have an exciting topic today. We're going to be talking about California balcony law. Doesn't sound exciting, but there are big ramifications from this legislation, and it's going to cover both for sale properties, so condos, things like that, and it's going to cover multifamily, which I guess could be for sale as well. But there's two different bills, and you don't have to hear me yammering on and on about it. We've got Dr. Balcony here. We have Greg Carlos. I'm going to bring him in a minute. A few things. We've got Michelle in the background. She's keeping things moving, keeping things clean in the comments. So make sure you put your comments in there. Post your questions. This is not tax or legal advice. Make sure you reach out to the appropriate professional if you have any questions like that. But let's bring in Greg. Greg is here. Welcome. Thanks for coming in, Greg. So Greg's just getting over a bit of a cold, so we appreciate him being here. He's going to hang out and answer your questions and guide us. So Greg started out as a chemist and then ended up joining a startup known as Dr. Balcony. So Greg, my dad joke that I have to ask you, how many years of school must you have to become a doctor of balconies?
A lot of years, a lot of years. You have to go to balcony college, and then after that,
Oh, that was good. Thanks for being a good sport on my stupid joke. I appreciate that. So,
of course.
Greg, you were like employee number two, right, for Dr. Balcony?
Yeah. I've been here since the start. I've loved watching the growth. It's crazy to think that a few years ago it was just trying to spread awareness on these inspections, these ordinances, and now it's so different, right? We went from trying to spread that awareness to trying to help as many people as possible comply before the deadline. So yeah.
Well, let's dive in. What are you talking about, deadline and complying with the laws? There's two different pieces of legislation, SB 721 and SB 326. But you guys have already inspected over 4,000 properties. Is that correct?
Yeah, we do inspections all throughout California. We're the leaders in this industry, and we've been fortunate to inspect over 4,000, nearly 5,000 properties to the state.
That's amazing. And let's dive into it. So there was a tragedy in Berkeley, I know, that inspired this legislation. And it isn't just a California issue. I've heard of other horror stories in cities like Chicago where balconies have unfortunately collapsed and folks have lost their lives. So tell us a little bit more about what inspired this legislation.
Yeah, so 2015, a lot of people have heard about this one, which was the Berkeley incident, where 13 young adults, they were on a balcony, and they attended UC Berkeley, and unfortunately, six of these young adults were killed from a balcony collapse, and the other seven were also pretty seriously injured. But that's not the only case that's occurred since then, but that's what started this thing, right? And the crazy part about this whole thing is that that property was only 9 years old,
That's
right?
nuts. I didn't know that. So it was relatively new construction. So we're not talking like in Chicago where these were brownstones from 100 years ago. This was one that was at the time was built in 2006. And what happened? What caused it?
So dry rot. So after investigation, it was dry rot that caused this collapse, and that's why they created these bills that focus on getting this exterior elevated elements inspected, and making sure there's no dry rot or other elements that may impact that structural stability and integrity.
So I heard you just say exterior elevated elements, triple E, and that's part of what's defined in the legislation. There's two separate bills. So SB 721, otherwise known as the balcony laws, for that's for apartments, and then SB 326 is for condominiums, so HOAs, and that's if there's 3 units or more for each. Correct, Greg?
Yeah. So both laws are for three or more bills. I mean, three or more units.
Yeah.
However, the SB 326 is going to be for condominiums. SB 721 is going to be for apartments. Yeah.
You have some lovely balcony injury statistics here. I'm never going to step foot on a balcony now after reading this. Thanks a lot. You scared me. And I don't mean to make light of it, but it's sad. Um, and I've seen too that there's one multifamily building across from a 22 unit building I'm selling that desperately needs your inspection services because it's obvious something's going on. So tell me more about the exterior elevated elements that are in the legislation, both of these bills. Tell me more about that.
Yeah, so a lot of people know these ordinances as the balcony inspection ordinances, but it actually applies to much more than that. Anything that's 6 feet off the ground has a walking surface meant to be walked on, relies partially or in whole on wood for its structural support and stability. Anything like a walkway, stairway, balcony, porch, deck, anything that's 6 feet above the ground, that's going to need an inspection according to these ordinances.
And here's a great breakdown that you have for the two respective bills and the deadline. That's an important one. And that's the third line down here. It talks about when these inspections must be done and the reports must be created because that's part of it. There's a report for each one. So what was interesting is nobody was really getting their inspections. Although you guys have almost done 5,000, I know what happened was that everybody was putting their inspections off. There was legislation that pushed the deadline. And what's fascinating to me, this happened around November of last year that this was released. And the reason I know that is Dr. Balcony's team was giving a presentation at a show we were at, the AAOA show,
Okay.
and what was great about it, the presentation, he specified that they had passed that extension, but their attorneys were looking at it carefully because what ended up happening is the extension was only for SB 721, not for SB 326. So that means that condos and HOAs, their deadline is passed, but a multifamily gets more time. The reason this is important and the reason why I've got Greg on here and we're talking about this, for condominiums and HOAs, this potentially could lead to a case where you can't finance a property until this inspection is done and these repairs are done as well. So that's a dirty little secret in this. And so condo owners, you got to be careful if you're trying to sell. You've got to make sure that your HOA has taken care of this or has a plan, because there may be additional reserves that are needed to repair balconies and exterior elevated elements. So anyway, I'll get off my soapbox. Greg, tell me about sample sizes and how it works for the two different property types.
Yeah, so for the SB721, like we said, it's for apartments, 3 or more units. That deadline, like you mentioned, was extended 1 year. Therefore, people have until the end of this year. Though obviously we don't suggest waiting for that deadline at all.
Don't push it.
Of course, of course. And then the sample size is actually 15% of each type of exterior elevated element. So if you have 100 balconies, 100 walkways, and 100 staircases, you're going to have 15 of those inspected minimum. That's going to be every 6 years, right? And you can see at the bottom there who can do these inspections. There's a lot more people that can do these inspections on the apartments. For the HOAs, it's a lot more specific on who can do these inspections. It's only architects or structural engineers. These inspections are a lot more thorough. You have to have a 95% confidence rate. A lot of companies are just going to do 100% sample size at that point. And because of this, it's only every 9 years. But like you said, it caused a lot of confusion with this, where, we were calling a lot of HOAs and telling them, hey guys, that deadline's a couple of months away. And they said, no, there was an extension. And, then you have to explain it to them. And then they have to do their own research, and they start seeing, hey, this extension was only for apartments. So yeah, that deadline has already passed. But there's still a lot of HOAs that have not complied. So we're trying to help out with that as much as we can.
Yeah, that's and even the legislation itself having the differences, and your chart broke that down in who could do the inspections, the differences in the sampling and what you have to inspect, the amount. It's silly to me that there was that much variation between two laws that were attempting to do the exact same thing. So this is a great illustration of the exterior elevated elements, cantilevered balconies. So that's right here on the front. That's a cantilevered balcony, and that's a yes. Supported balconies. So that would be over here. These are fully supported, but you still got to inspect those. Juliet balconies. That's this here, or the little tiny ones that you don't really walk out on. And then this is informative to me as well, the roof overhang. So that up there, this is a great picture that demonstrates that not part of this inspection. Not to say you can let those fall off and you shouldn't take care of them. It's just not part of this particular legislation. All right, so let's dive in. So the inspection and permitting and repairs. So you guys tell me how much advance notice do you need for an inspection? Because you guys are one of the biggest ones out there doing the work. How much time? If I want to book you guys, I'm an HOA. I want to book you. How long do?
Yeah, right now we still have pretty good availability. Next week we can get out there and as long as your tenants are informed, we can get out there and do that inspection for you. Now, if once it gets to the end of this month, beginning of next month, in the previous years, that's where we saw a big uptick of people starting to hop on this. I don't know why. Right when we get to that halfway mark in the year, the phones start going a little bananas. So at that point, we'll probably be about 3 to 4 weeks away, but there's already some people now that are calling and scheduling for August, September, October, and maybe they want to wait until the end of the year because they're doing some last minute repairs before those inspections, or they just want to budget for later in the year. But that is something that we can do as well. So if you're waiting for later in the year, you know, our calendar for September is more booked than it is for this month. So
That's
that's
funny.
that's something we can help with as
Well,
well.
and they better hope there aren't any repairs, because if you do find repairs, then you got to pull permits here and get the repairs done. Now, an important distinction: you guys actually do not personally do the repairs; you do only the inspections. You have contractors that you can refer for business, but I like that distinction and wall between the inspection and the work, because it seems to, not that you guys would do anything wrong if you did the work, but it seems to have a good barrier between the two. So
Yeah, yeah, and that's how the law was written originally as well. So originally the law said don't have the same people do the inspection and the repairs, right? It's conflict of interest, but
yeah.
we've kept it that same way.
So just a quick overview. We don't have to go through all of this, but you can give essentially do a visual inspection that gives people an idea of how much it'll cost to do the inspection and generate the report. And then when you go out there and inspect, are you guys drilling holes and hacking stuff apart? Tell me more about the actual inspection process.
Yeah, of course. So there is a visual part from the top, right? A lot of people worry, hey, are you guys going to drill holes, on the top of my balcony or on my walking surface? No, not at all. From the top, we're going to, be looking at any water stains. We're going to be looking at those railings. We're going to be looking at a lot of different, things on the top. From the bottom side, we're actually going to be drilling small holes about the size of a nickel, 2 to 3 inches deep in there. And what we're trying to do with that is we're going to insert a boroscope camera, take detailed images of what's inside of your balcony. So, if we tell you, hey, your balcony failed because it's completely rotted, we don't want you to take our word for it. We want to show you on that report, right?
Yeah.
So exactly, that's exactly what we're doing.
Let's jump to the report. That's actually what the legislation requires at the end of the day. Obviously, any repairs that are found, but you've got to have the report on file, and you have to actually keep the report for two of the cycles. So if you're on the 6-year cycle, keep it for 2 of the 6-year cycles, or 2 of the 9-year cycles, because it's different time periods. So you guys prepared the report, and tell me quickly, like, how long is the turnaround on a report?
So turnaround is typically going to be about
Okay.
a week for a report. Now, obviously, it depends on the size of your property. The law says that we have to get it back to you within 45 days, but we pride ourselves on our speed, assuming everything goes smoothly and we're able to access, all areas needed, about a week or so.
Okay. And then there's a distinction I know between emergency and non-emergency failures. So an emergency would be like, hey, this you shouldn't have folks walking on this thing. Correct. It will be a non-emergency.
Yeah, so non-emergency, you may find a little bit of rotting, you may see some corrosion, but it's nothing that's gonna scream, "Hey, you gotta, block this area off and get this fixed immediately," right? A non-emergency is gonna be something that, if this isn't tended to properly within, the next couple of months, it's gonna cause a bigger issue in a few years, right? It may lead to an eventual emergency condition, right? And that's a lot more of what we find. Emergency conditions are a little more rare, but at the end of the day, we're certifying these balconies for 9 years, right? So we have to be
That's
careful with that.
no, and that's a good point. When you're doing this, this isn't like, hey, it's not like you're just looking at it and you're putting bubble gum on it. This needs to last until the next inspection. So that's a very good point. So the repairs must be done with a permit. And you guys aren't going to be involved with the permitting process, or it's just going to be the contractor and the owner, correct?
So we can help with the permitting process. A lot of our clients ask us to do this step as well. Typically, your contractor is going to hire an architect or an engineer anyway. So for the permitting process, a lot of times the cities, they're asking for plans and designs to show how you're going to address these issues. It depends on what's needed, right? If there's any structural integrity issues such as rotting, that point they're typically going to ask for designs and plans, and we can help with that as well. That's definitely a service that we offer. We're engineers and architects here at Dr. Balcony, or your contractor can do it just like you said, but the majority of our clients do ask us to help with this part as well.
All right, so give me some good stories now while we're going through this. Tell me about a big old expensive repair job that you guys discovered. Like, tell me the biggest one. I want to hear.
Ooh, biggest one. So we did a property with, it was actually condos, which is typically you see condos with really good conditions, right? Um, but for this one, we actually put it on that presentation where the property looked to be in amazing condition from the exterior, which was why it was such a shocker. When we showed up, we said, "Hey, look, condos are typically in really good condition. We're gonna just zoom through this inspection, right? We're probably gonna find maybe one non-emergency on the project, maybe two. There was about 350 units at that HOA, and once we start the drilling process, we have a baseline for how many balconies we drill. We start seeing, hey man, this is completely rotted on the inside, right?
Wow.
Um, and we start with one. We thought it was a one-time thing. We go to the next one. We go to the next one. Turns out that there was about 20 to 30% of those balconies that we saw were in an emergency condition.
Oh my God. And again, it looked like fine. Like you pulled up and like, this is gonna be an easy one. Nothing. Not gonna
Yeah,
find it.
exactly.
Oh my gosh. Well, that's
And
a great example why the law is important. You wouldn't have known.
yeah, yeah. And the thing is, they hired, or they probably had their own handyman that was, repainting it and applying some coats, right before those inspections. But if you maintain the balcony from the start, right, and you do it every couple of years, some waterproofing here and there, that's going to help you maintain your balcony forever. We've inspected about properties that are, built in the 70s, 80s, and they pass. And then we've inspected properties like this one that are maybe 20 to 30 years old, but they've never done any sort of waterproofing or anything like that. Now they're completely rotted, and it ends up being a much bigger project than needs to be.
Well said. I hope you're taking notes. If you're tuned into this, that spending money on maintenance is the best money you can spend. So construction. So you pulled permits now on a project like that. They would have had to pull permits. Obviously, you're going to need to use a GC, and you're going to have to get that work done. The fines, how do people get fined? Obviously, if they haven't done the report and not doing the work, correct?
Yeah, exactly. So it is a three-step process. To everyone that's listening, a lot of people have that first step, which is that inspection done, and then they don't address the permits, or they don't address the repairs in their allocated time. So that's what can lead to potential fines and penalties, right? Every local jurisdiction has the power to enforce their own penalties, but typically, what's typical is $100 to $500 per day. You know, they're going after those that are in really bad condition right now, but that's technically what they can fine you. So it's a hefty amount for sure.
Yeah, and I can imagine for particularly, well, either or, a multifamily property owner isn't going to want to foot that bill, nor is an HOA. They're not going to want fines adding up. They don't have that money for it. So you got some before and after. So is this the community you were talking about?
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
like Greg said, I mean, look at this. It looks okay. I've seen far worse. I've sold far worse, and then that was what was underneath. That is absolutely crazy. Crazy amounts of termite damage and dry rot. Thank God you guys did the inspection.
Yeah, and the good thing is that the community was, on it, and you had a lot of board members that were concerned, and rightfully so, of their balconies. We had people that were saying, "Hey, I don't feel safe going onto my balcony," right? And uh, like I said, rightfully so. And the good thing is that they acted upon it, immediately. And in the next slide, you'll be able to see, what it's supposed to look like, and what was
Yeah.
done during the repairs. And obviously, we didn't do the repairs ourselves. We did the permits, right? And with the permits, we're always going to try to fix those balconies with the least amount of repairs necessary. There's a million ways to repair any balcony. You don't always have to tear it down. I think out
Yeah.
of 5,000 inspections, nearly 5,000 inspections we've done, we've only had maybe one or two projects where you have to redo the entire balcony. So there's always an easier way, and in this case, it was joist sistering. So we were really happy to be able to save the HOA some money there.
That's great. Yeah. And then to your point, they learned their lesson, is my guess, and they're doing a better job of maintenance after this repair job, the expensive repair job. Not going to wait another 20 years. Yeah, so this was news to me. So this happened in February
Yeah, yeah, it's
this
it's
year.
really recent. Yeah, really recent, and it was kind of a wake up call again. It's obviously it's something very unfortunate, something very scary that happened. Thankfully, thank God no one was hurt. Well, there was actually people were hurt, right? There was a fractured arm, but it
No
wasn't
deaths, thankfully.
no deaths, thankfully, and it's thanks to that balcony that's directly under it. So
Yeah, thankfully no one was there because that wouldn't have been such a happy ending.
yeah,
Well, that's a good eye opener that this isn't. I know some people think, oh, well, there's bigger fish to fry with legislation, but this is important. So
yeah.
that's unfortunate to see. There's definitely fines if you don't comply. All right, let's get to the nitty gritty. There are a lot of companies that have popped up since the laws went into place, and what makes you, well, let's not talk about you first. Let's see if somebody's out there doing the research and says, hey, I need to get my balcony inspection. How did you choose a balcony inspection company?
Of course. So there's a lot of things that you want to take into account, into factor. I would always say ask for some referrals, right? Try to see their previous work. My recommendation, like we said earlier, is don't go with someone that's going to do those repairs as well, because unless you know them and unless you've worked with them before, right? And I'm not talking about any company in particular, but there is that risk where, hey, we've heard horror stories of they're holding my report hostage until we do those repairs, right? Or perhaps they offer very low pricing, but that's only because they're trying to get that construction job as well, right? And my even if you do the inspection with a company that may offer repairs, my suggestion would be go to a different company after that for the actual work, right? You want to keep it separate in order to keep your conflict of interest afloat, and obviously pricing, right? There's inspections that range. I've heard of some companies that do inspections starting at $6,000. I've heard of companies that do them at a couple $100. So,
Hmm.
do that, and at the end of the day, make sure you feel comfortable with them and trust your gut, and um, yeah,
And then why should we go with Dr. Balcony? I can tell you, well, let me say why I think you should use Dr. Balcony, and then
yeah,
you tell us more. But I will say that you guys were one of the first to come out and share the message, get set up to do it right. You've done a great job of continuing to track the legislation. Like I said, at that event when it was just released, the extension language, you guys astutely noticed that it only extended one of the bills, even though most people didn't. I didn't even see it in there. Not that I was focused on the balcony law like you guys are, but so you guys astutely have been following the balcony law and making sure that things are done correctly. So give me a few other good reasons to choose you guys.
yeah, of course. So, like you said, we've been in the game for a couple of years now. I know there's a lot of new companies joining today, and that's great because there's so many properties that need to be inspected, right? Uh, the more help we can get in this industry, the better. But at the end of the day, right, Dr. Balcony, this is all we do. This is our specialty. We focus on one thing and we try to do it right. And you know. We have thousands of happy customers so far, and we're really really thankful for that. Not only that, but we try to do it in the most efficient way possible. We patented our drilling method, where you drill the small holes, insert that borescope camera. So we have the most efficient way possible, and then at the same time, uh, best pricing will be any opposing bid by 20% always. That's how confident we are in our pricing. So you always get the best pricing, the best service, the best product with us, and we're trying to make everything as easy as possible for our clients.
No, that's great. You guys have definitely done that, and I want to thank you for joining us again. You just got over being sick yesterday, still suffering through, but it meant you committed to this, and you said, "That's it, I'm doing it." So I thank you for that and sharing, because this is definitely complicated legislation. So I appreciate you sharing. What do we do to connect with you? Oh, and
Yeah,
I don't know if you wanted me to keep this in there, but there's a 20% off coupon code for your next inspection if it's okay.
yeah, of course. Yeah,
Good.
let's get that out there. If you use code webinar 20, we'll give you 20% off your next inspection or design. Whatever part you are in your compliance process, we'd be happy to help you. Feel free to email us sales at drbalcony.com, info at drbalcony.com. Visit drbalcony.com. Right, there's a lot of people that don't want to maybe speak to someone and then get followed up with. So there is a free cost estimate calculator and sample reports on our website, and a whole bunch of tools that you can use just to familiarize yourself with the process. I always recommend give us a call and get a quote as soon as you can, so at least you start that process. Right now, what it's going to cost you, and get your inspection done as soon as possible, because last year that deadline was so chaotic. Right, we had companies asking us, can you backdate my report, can you do this, right, a lot of different crazy things. And the last thing I'll add is that, like you said earlier, it's we're seeing the consequences of not getting your inspection done for HOAs. A lot of people can't sell their condos right now because they haven't had their inspection. So a lot of uh, companies are, I mean, a lot of lenders are blacklisting people that don't have
Yeah.
their inspections done, and they're not able to sell their condos. So you don't want that to happen to you. If you need help, if your HOA isn't moving, give us a call, and we can do just your unit. Or if you're an apartment, give us a call. We can schedule you for any time that you'd like. But yeah,
And which cities do you cover in California?
All of California. All of
Every
California.
city. That's one of the other advantages you guys have, especially because you've been doing it since the beginning. You've got coverage in every city. And like we discussed, Dr. Balcony's not going to do the work. They're not going to be out there swinging the hammer. I bet Greg could do it, even with his chemistry background. He could probably still swing a hammer, but it won't be Greg. It's going to be a network of contractors they can recommend, or you could use anybody. The guy in the pickup truck who has a GC license, he can do it. So we really appreciate you being here. And like Greg said, it's going to be difficult for financing for condos if this is not taken care of. We've already passed that deadline. And multifamily, it's going to get sticky if you're not working on it in the next few months. And this isn't going to go away. I know we'd like to think that there would be some magic wand that makes it disappear. It's not. It's coming, or it's already here for HOAs and condos. So, Greg, thanks for being here. So our audience was quiet, no questions. You must have just answered every possible thing they could think of.
I'm glad.
So I appreciate you being here. We've got Greg's contact info there. Make sure you reach out if you have any questions. But that's it, my friend. Go home and get healthy so you can be out there saving balconies.
I
All right?
appreciate it. Thank you so much, Christian. Talk to you
Yeah,
soon.
thank you. Thank you. We'll talk to you again soon. Take care.